morning. Welcome back to Kevin Toll Reads. So today I have a book review of Road to Perdition by Max Allan Collins. This book was published in 1998. I enjoyed this book. It was my first foray into a graphic novel. This book obviously has heavy ties to the movie with Tom Hanks, Jude Law, Daniel Craig, and Paul Newman. There is some differences, and I'll get into that in a minute. But the premise of this book revolves around Michael O'Sullivan, who is the AKA Angel of Death, and his work for the Looney crime family back in the early 1900s. And it takes place around the Tri-City areas of Rock Island, Moline, Illinois, and Iowa, Bettendorf, that area, which is now the Quad Cities. There is some true depiction of characters that were not fiction. You have Al Capone, you have Francis Nitz, those kind of things. And so the premise of the story really revolves around Michael O'Sullivan, who is the AKA Angel of Death, and he's basically the enforcer for the Looney crime family. And his oldest son, one of two, sneaks into his car as his brother and himself are interested in what his dad does. And he goes and witnesses his dad and Mr. Looney's son on a job. And when they find out he's there, Mr. Looney's son, Connor Looney, doesn't realize that it's O'Sullivan's son and wants to shoot him. And O'Sullivan guarantees that he's not going to be a snitch and that kind of thing. Well, then fast forward a few days later, and they send O'Sullivan on a job to one of their affiliates. And what O'Sullivan doesn't know is they're framing him. And so they send him on this frame, and all while that's taking place, they go to execute his family. And so that's when the story kind of unfolds, and it becomes kind of a true tale of revenge. What I really enjoyed about this book, obviously, was the artwork in the story. The artwork is done by Richard Rayner, and it's fantastic. It's my first foray into like a graphic novel, and I really enjoyed it. I obviously enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the fact that there's some differences from the movie. This really is told from the POV or point of view of Michael Sullivan Jr., the son, and his kind of reflection back to what he remembers his dad as and what he stood for and that kind of thing. Obviously, it's heavily revolves around revenge, and so it's basically after this all takes place and they realize that O'Sullivan's still alive, Looney's go into hiding, and the old man Looney tries to keep his son on the move, and Capone and the other mobsters from Chicago area are trying to keep their business interests of Mr. Looney active, and so they're kind of harboring Connor Looney, and so O'Sullivan is trying to disrupt their business. So there is some differences. In particular, one of the gambling boats that he attacks is a difference from the movie. Where the movie, I believe, Perdition was a town, which it is in the book, in Kansas. But in the movie, I believe, Tom Hanks' character of O'Sullivan, he kind of goes back and forth between two crime families and kind of, milks them for all they're worth type thing. Whereas in this story, it's just a true revenge story. So in terms of what I didn't like about the book, obviously it's it's short. I completed this in 2 sittings. I mean, there's not a lot of words here, so you're getting a lot out of the pictures and the descriptions. But there's enough here to keep it a cohesive story, so I enjoyed that. But I didn't really enjoy it in the sense that I wanted more out of it. It's very, very, very succinct, and that can be a turnoff for some people. I did think, some of the differences in the movie, at least the movie from what I remember, was interesting. In the back of the book, and I wanted to read you a section here, the author kind of does, like, I don't know if it's an epilogue, but he talks about a little bit of the truth to some of this, and he says the story is true, or at least true enough. Capone, Nitti, and Ness are historical figures. And of course, but Bill Gable also existed, as did a betrayed lieutenant of John Looney. And the riverboat Quinlan did burn, and Quinlan was the riverboat that O'Sullivan burns because that was a kind of a money laundering scheme of Capone. And so I found those interesting. Again, it's my first foray into a graphic novel. I give this a 3.9 out of 5. I think it's a solid entry. I enjoyed it for what it's worth, and I'm glad I read it. It's a quick read, and it's my first graphic novel, so there's that. So I hope you enjoy this Road to Perdition by Max Allan Collins. I give it a 3.9 out of 5. Hope you're having a great day, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.